Hey guys, what's up? All right, so here's what we're doing today. You guys are going to be filling in this lovely table here, and it is going to feel kind of like busy work. And it's not busy work, it's really important and it's really useful in helping you guys understand the unit circle and how it's built and how it works. But it's going to be a lot of just straight up math today. Lots of calculations, lots of like plug and chug, just good old math that is, for some of you, you're going to really enjoy that. And for some of you, it's just going to feel kind of tedious. So that's kind of where we're headed for today. So on your homework last night, you guys were able to already do a lot of stuff with sine and cosine and a little bit with tangent. And actually, the first thing that I should show you on here is that this table that I gave you, that the very first thing that you can actually do is that this row right here is for you to fill in the radians. I've already given you degrees. This is for you to fill in the radians. So like obviously 180 would be pi, 45 is pi over 4, so on. You guys can fill those in. So that's the first thing that you'll want to do is you'll want to match those up so that you have your radians filled in. So what we're going to be doing next is you guys have already done a lot of sine and cosine, and so a lot of those you guys could actually even steal from your homework. A lot of these you've already done, so you wouldn't even have to do. But the other thing is that sine and cosine, one thing that I'm hoping you guys are all really comfortable with at this point, that we've spent enough time with, is in knowing that for your coordinates, that your coordinates are always going to be cosine, comma, sine. Now, I need you guys to remember and be understanding that using this program, I'm like using my finger. I don't have a stylus or anything. So if this gets like gross and ugly with my handwriting, just kind of bear with me here because I know it's kind of clunky. So here, hopefully you guys have spent enough time with this to remember and understand that your x coordinate's always going to be cosine, your y coordinate's always going to be sine. All right, so when you guys go through to fill this in, you can read cosine, sine directly off of a completed unit circle, which everybody should have plenty of at this point. So you can fill those directly in. That is super duper easy. All right, that is something that we have done plenty of. All right, so here, the next thing that we need to take a look at is you guys have hopefully spent a little bit of time working here with tangent. All right, now there's a couple of different ways that we can actually do tangent, and the way that a lot of you guys have probably been doing tangent is as opposite over adjacent. And so here I'm actually going to look at this example that we have spent a lot of time with, and that's my 30-degree triangle right here. And that's where this is square root of 3 over 2 and 1/2, and that's 1. So my tangent, so for this one here, the coordinates for this point obviously are square root of 3 over 2 comma 1/2. So for 30 degrees, my sine, my cosine, I'll do cosine first because the cosine here is going to be my x coordinate. So the cosine here is square root of 3 over 2. Now this is going to be very dicey to write here in my box, but we'll try. So the cosine is square root of 3 over 2. Oh, that's so beautiful. Do you guys see how beautiful that is? That was really hard. All right. And then the sine is going to be 1/2. So those are my cosine and my sine. Those are really easy to fill in. Now, we've already spent some time learning about the unit circle, all right, and how to do tangent. Now, tangent is going to get a little dicey. Now, we could do tangent as opposite over adjacent, but something new that I want you guys to learn, and actually, oh, I'm going to have to get rid of all that stuff. Sad, I'm going to have to rewrite it. All right, so another thing that I want you guys to understand, all right, is that here, actually, I could read, oh, can I redo that? It's not going to let me redo it. Sad. All right, one thing that I want you guys to understand, all right, is that when I've got this, if I have my square root of 3 over 2 and my 1/2, is that here, I don't really even need the hypotenuse because the hypotenuse is 1. So if I've got my cosine as square root of 3 over 2 and my sine is 1/2, here's some new knowledge for you, all right? One thing that I want you guys to see and understand is that my tangent, opposite over adjacent, my opposite is going to be the same as my sine. My adjacent is going to be the same as my cosine. So another way, all right, and I'm going to, here, another way that I can actually write that out here is going to be tangent is going to be sine over cosine. This is new knowledge, and I want you guys to write that down somewhere. All right, a new way to find sine is going to be sine over cosine, because those are going to match up with opposite over adjacent. All right, so this is something new that's going to be really important. All right, so I want you guys to write that down. That's one thing that I can take a look at here. Okay, now I'm going to get rid of all this here and move this out of the way. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to actually set this up here. So we had my answer here that my cosine was square root of 3 over 2, and my sine was 1/2. So in order to find the tangent, okay, we've already done this a bunch of times. So we would do here my 1/2 over my square root of 3 over 2. All right. Now, you guys have done this enough to know we can't exactly here divide this out by dividing my two fractions, so I'm going to have to rewrite it as multiplying by the reciprocal, which is pretty obnoxious here. All right. So I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So I am actually here going to get rid of this guy. All right. And I don't know where the eraser went. That's so convenient. Thanks, program. I got rid of my eraser. I'm so glad. It's great. All right. So instead, I'm going to rewrite this as 1/2 times 2 over square root of 3. We already did this the last time I saw you guys. So that's going to give me 2 over 2 square root of 3. Those 2's are going to cancel. I end up with 1 over square root of 3. I'm going to have to rationalize that, which gives me 3 over square root of 3. All right? So that gives me my tangent. That's pretty easy, not a big deal. All right? So we get all of that, okay? And that's going to give me my tangent. So my tangent is square root of 3 over 3. All right? We've done that enough times that you guys should be okay with that. All right? So that's square root of 3 over 3. All right? So now here is, and that's probably what I would do, honestly, guys, is I would go through after I found my sine and my cosine and do tangent for everything. You guys can go in whatever order you want. So now we need to come down and start looking at cosecant, secant, and cotangent. So the first thing that I'm going to remember is I'm going to remember that sine and cosecant are buddies. And sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite. So what that means is that they're actually inverses. So in order to find my cosecant, I can actually just take my sine and flip it upside down. So instead of doing 1 over 2, I can just do 2 over 1, which is actually just 2. So that one was super, super easy. That was a really easy one, okay, and it wasn't a big deal at all. So that one was super easy. That one's just 2. So the next one I need to find is cosine. Cosine is going to match up with secant. All right, and you guys you could look at your triangle and you could know, okay, secant is going to be hypotenuse over adjacent. I think it's going to be annoying to keep looking at your triangle. I think it's going to be easier to say cosine and secant are buddies. You can take your cosine and you can just flip it. So we're going to take our square root of 3 over 2, and I'm just going to flip it. So I'm going to have 2 over square root of 3. Obviously, I'm going to have to rationalize this, but this is old hat at this point. And I'm going to end up here with 2 square root of 3 over 3. So that's what I end up with here, and that's what I'm going to have for my answer in here. Okay, so I'm going to have here 2 square root of 3 over 3. I am so proud of myself that I attempted even to write in that tiny box. All right, so we've got all of that. Okay, oh, my eraser is back. That's so convenient. Where did you go earlier? All right, so here, I'm just going to erase all of this. That way I don't undo everything that I just did. All right, so the last one that I need to take a look at here is my cosecant. And so for my cosecant, I need to know that my cotangent. So my tangent here is going to match up with my cotangent. And so all I need to do for that one is just take my tangent and flip it upside down. So I'm going to take that square root of 3 over 3 and flip it upside down. So I'm going to end up with 3 over square root of 3. I'm going to have to rationalize that. Surprise, surprise. I'm going to end up with 3 square root of 3 over 3. Those cancel, and I'm just left with the square root of 3. All right? And so that's going to give me here, okay, I get the square root of 3. That gives me my answer for those guys there. All right? So what that does here, okay, is that gives me all my answers here for my 30 degrees. Now, one thing that you guys are going to notice, okay, is that you're not going to have to do all this work for every single box because all of them are going to have buddies. All of them, all right? So one thing that you're going to notice, and I'm actually going to here, okay, as we take a look at this here, I'm going to see if I can go through and, oh, it's not going to let me erase. That's great. All right. So I'm going to show you guys and remind you guys, all right, that the 30 degrees, do you guys remember how 30 degrees is buddies with the 150 and with the 210 and with the 330? Those are all buddies. All their coordinates are going to be the same. The only thing that's going to change is going to be the sign. Now, like the SIGN, okay, like the pluses and the minuses, all right? So one thing that you guys can do, all right, as we take a look here, is you can start to figure out some tricks and some patterns. And you'll notice that like in quadrant 1, everything's going to be positive. Everything is positive. Sine and cosine are positive, which means tangent's going to be positive because tangent is sine over cosine. That's going to be positive. Okay, if sine is positive, cosecant is positive. If cosine is positive, secant is positive, and so on. So you can figure out that all those are going to be positive in quadrant 1. In quadrant 2, you can figure out what's going to be positive, and that's going to change things. So, like, for example, if one of these is positive and one is negative, then tangent will be negative. And that's going to affect my pluses and minuses down here. So each one's going to have buddies. So the 30 and the 150, all those numbers will be the same, but the pluses and minuses are going to change. Same with the 210, same with the 330. All the numbers will be similar. You're just going to have to figure out your pluses and minuses. So you guys can figure out a strategy for what that's going to look like and kind of talk that through. All right? So the other things that I need you guys to kind of be aware of is a lot of times I have students who will use highlighters to go through and organize this, and you guys can totally feel free to do that. Sometimes I have students who go through and highlight each quadrant, so they might make all of quadrant 1 similar, all of quadrant 2 similar, quadrant 3, quadrant 4, because all those pluses and minuses are going to be the same. Sometimes I have students who match up the buddies, all right? So they might match up the 30, the 150, the 210, and the 330, might make those all the same color. So you can figure out whatever strategy works best for you. Now, the one thing that I'm going to warn you before I set you guys free to go ahead and start this is that you're going to see some freaky stuff happening on your 90s. So your 0, your 90, your 180, your 270, your 360. You're going to see some freaky stuff happening because there are some zeros there. And anytime you try to divide by 0, that's not allowed. You'll get undefined. So you will have some answers in those that are going to be undefined. You'll have some zeros, you'll have some zeros with some slashes through them. So don't let that scare you, but that's going to happen. So also keep in mind, obviously the 0 and the 360, those should be exactly the same all the way down because they are coterminal. Yay, vocab. All right, so this is what you guys are going to do. Have fun, compare your answers. Don't forget that you guys are going to have a unit circle quiz on Monday, so don't forget to be studying those. If you guys have any major issues, all right, snap a picture, let me know. You can send me a text or put it on Twitter, and I'll try to get back to you. All right, sound good? Good luck, have fun, be smart, make good choices over the weekend.